Hi, I'm James Brady. I'm Property Divisional Director at Hiscox, and we employ 3,000 people globally. This is my duvet flip.
When an opportunity like that comes to you, what are the things that you need to consider?
It wasn't an instantaneous yes. It was, let me think about this, let me consider it, let me think about what are the pros, what are the cons.
And you went in there, and what happened?
We got a good team rebuilt, and then just consistency in the delivery. You say to someone that you're going to do something, you do it. Be as good as you want. If you do that and you're consistent in that delivery, things then start to snowball.
Are you ready for my final question?
Yes.
What's your duvet flip? What gets you out of bed in the morning to flip the duvet?
Look, I feel... Hi, I'm James Brady. I'm Property Divisional Director at Hiscox. I'm feeling really good about sitting down with Jack today. I'm most excited to talk about the world of insurance and hopefully help demystifying it for some of your audience, that they can think about it as a potential career. I've not met Jack before. I've watched some of the YouTube videos. So the one thing I'm going to give the audience is the world's best kept secret in terms of a career. I hope they take that away with them. Bring it on.
So James, welcome to my duvet flip. How are we?
Fantastic, thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
No, thank you for joining us, and I can't wait to hear about your career, your journey, and everything in between. I know it's a lifelong journey of lots of ups and downs potentially, lots of things that you can pass on to the next generation and people tuning in. But I want to start here. First job. I know you talked a bit about it with Leon, but tell me a little bit about that job. Like, how did you get it? Why did you want to get into pensions? Like, where did it all start?
I got it just from looking online back in the day at job listings, post-university. It probably wasn't as competitive as it is now, that industry back then, but just put my name forward, went through, I think, a recruitment agency as well, had a few different things, on the go, all in sort of financial services. Got a fairly good vibe from it in terms of the recruitment process, but ultimately landed it and it didn't really live up to the expectations that I had for it, I would say. And
that happens in life all the time, right? You do something, I do things, even with my avocado on toast, it doesn't live up to expectations when you think it is gonna. But tell me a little bit about, you mentioned a few things here around it not being as competitive as it is today, which I totally agree with. What can people do when they're in a competitive market, or they're applying for a job, or they're looking to get a promotion, but they know there's lots of competition around them? How do they not let that get to them? And what's your advice to people?
Great question. I think the job market now, in terms of getting a job, is very, very hot and competitive. Think about the number of applications that we get for our graduate intake, where we take, I think, 15 people, and we get, I think, tens of thousands of applicants at the initial stage. So it's a really, really competitive environment. I think what I would say as advice to someone who was either applying for a job or going for that next job in their career is, why do you want that job? And what is your differentiator against some of your peers or the competitors in it, as to why it's the best job, why you're the best candidate for that job, and why it's the right job for you, and what you're ultimately going to bring to it that's going to make the business that you're going to work for a better place for you being in that job. So thinking about, your skills, your attributes, what you've done today, any experiences that you've had in life that sort of resonate with what's in that job description, or what the job could entail, and sort of trying to position yourself like that. But also not being too down about, the failure of maybe not getting a job as well. There'll always be another one. And, I think a bit philosophically sometimes is that if something doesn't happen, it's maybe not meant to be, right? And if the job that you will ultimately get, if you are passionate and committed to that, about the job, and committed to it as well, then you'll probably do a good job in it too.
And when you go for a job and you think it's a good vibe, how do you know it's a good vibe? What are you looking for? like you went into that organisation, you thought it was a good vibe, and then you soon realised that maybe this is not for me. But how do you know if something's a good vibe for you and it's right for you?
I think what frustrated me about that job was they talked the talk, but they didn't walk the walk in terms of, you know, the development opportunities, both in role and then also the sort of the secondary like courses and things like that. They were committed to putting me on as a graduate coming into the role, and that just didn't live up to expectations. And it was, you know, they were just talking about it rather than actually actioning it and doing it. And when that happened, you know, that's disappointing. And I just thought, you know, you could sit in this job for the next 12 months, or I can find another one, not waste time here. Not that I was at, you know, a very late stage in my career, just getting started, but just gut feel went for, you know, a different job. And I feel very, very fortunate to have landed at somewhere like Hiscox and gone on a journey in a great business that we are.
And did you wait until you got another job before you got your job at Hiscox before you left?
Yes. Yeah.
And would you advise us to?
It's probably the natural way to do it, and it takes away, I think, the sort of the financial downsides and risks of not having a job in today's sort of life and society that's not exactly inexpensive, you know, particularly in, you know, big cities and London, for example. You know, the cost of living now is high. So when you've got a job, it's easier to get another job, but I would probably wait until you get another job before you finish with your current job.
I think that's great advice. And you said you went for a recruiter.
Yes.
Why is that so important? Because we're never taught about the importance of working in collaboration with a recruiter who's in the market, who does it every day. Mm-hmm. Why is that important rather than just applying on job boards? Why should you go and look at a recruiter or build your network of recruiters throughout your career so you can grow?
Yeah, I'm not massively experienced, and I obviously deal with recruiters now when we are looking to employ people, which is a good source of, you know, quality talent is what I would say. If you are looking for that first job or maybe the next job and it's external to the company that you're in, a recruiter is someone, as you say, you know, is professional, and it's their job to get you a job and position you in the right job or one that is sort of suited to your skill set. And they will, a good recruiter, not all of them are, right?
That was going to be my next question. How do you spot a good recruiter?
Will sort of help and coach you through an interview process. They might know the individuals that are doing some of the interviews as well, and could help you sort of with, you know, how to position certain things, or sort of maybe some personality traits as well. So, you know, better to have, you know, all of that information to hand than maybe a bit of a shot in the dark if you're trying to do it yourself. Not to say that you can't do it yourself, and some jobs and businesses won't use a recruiter, therefore, you know, it's a bit of a myriad of lots of different things out there that and sort of sources to try and get that next job.
So there's several sources. A good recruiter could be one of them. Mm-hmm. But don't just rely on a recruiter, because some organisations may not use recruitment. Mm-hmm. And yet if you really want to work at this organisation, then you might have to just go through the process yourself, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But I think it's what I would say is that it's up to you to drive it as well. Don't think that because you've, you know, subcontracted it out to a recruiter or using a recruiter that they will ultimately try and find you the job or your dream job or the job that you really want or the one that you think you might be best at. I think it's up to that individual to drive their career as well. I think you're the only person that can do that.
And is that in terms of all concepts of your career? It's down to you to put the effort in to drive it. Yet again, there's obviously peers, there's managers, there's sponsors, there's mentors around you that can help you, but ultimately it's not just all going to fall in your lap easy. You have to go and do it. Is that how you did it? 18 years, employing 30 people, looking after a revenue of 700 million. Have you gone out there and done it, or has it all fallen into your lap? How has it worked for you?
I hope I've gone out there. I don't think it's just fallen into my lap. But very much. That's my one big piece of advice for people starting out in their career, or anyone in their career really, is that it's on you to own and drive your career. Have a bit of a plan as well. It's not linear, so it won't always. If you want a job, to attain a job in sort of 5 to 10 years' time, you will not go in a straight line towards that job, or you're very unlikely to. There'll be some bumps in the road. You will be disappointed in sometimes, and you might do really well in others, and then you jump up a few rungs of the ladder. But it's ultimately up to you as an individual to drive your career. I work for Hiscox, and we've got some great people who are very giving and willing to give up their time to help people learn and develop, and give people opportunities to coach and mentor and shadow and things like that. But what we want to see is the people who are going through those processes are actually developing as well, that they're taking on some of the advice, they're putting themselves out of their comfort zone sometimes, and helping develop themselves, which helps make the business better as well.
Absolutely. And what's something that Hiscox has helped you develop that has just become a long life learning for you? Is there anything that you've just, sometimes you have those moments and something will happen and it just reframes your whole thinking on something? Has there ever been anything? You've been at Hiscox for 18 years. Yeah. Is there anything that you thought, wow?
I think one of the things that Hiscox is really, really good at is giving, talent a chance and an opportunity, and maybe taking a bit of a risk on someone when they might not be ready. And I've been lucky enough in a few roles throughout my career where they've given me that chance, that sort of step up to the next level, where maybe I wasn't quite ready for it, and it's a bit of a sink or swim type thing. It's not a over to you, go and do it, and we'll see if you are a success or a failure. There's a lot of support put around you in those situations and areas, but you really find out a lot about yourself in those, when you get yourself really out of your comfort zone and into a situation that you're not experienced in, but you learn so much about you as an individual, how you react in certain situations, and some of the times when I reflect on my career, that I've learnt the most aren't when it's been easy or you've been really successful, but it's when the chips have been down and when it's been really hard, where you look back and you think, God, did I really do that?
You took a moment. How did I do that?
Yeah.
As well, isn't it?
Yeah.
In terms of financial services, insurance, why did you want to get into financial services and insurance? Tell us something we don't know externally that makes it such a good industry. Because I've had the opportunity to obviously interview Haki, your group CEO. I've also had the opportunity to meet fantastic people across Hiscox, and I started to understand the industry and actually, it's a good industry making a big difference. But for you, what was it? What keeps you in the industry? Why did you want to get in the industry? And why are you here today trying to tell other individuals, come and join us and be part of it?
Yeah, I think sadly, no one at school these days, even nowadays, certainly not when I was at school a long time ago now, sits and says, I want to be in insurance. Maybe unless you've got a family member or someone in it that you're close to and you see it, as the industry that it is. But I think genuinely it's one of the best kept secrets, insurance, in the financial service landscape, and also the working environment and the job opportunities that you have within insurance. It's an industry that can be very technical, and analytical, but equally it's all about people and relationships. So you've got a lovely blend of that, and you can major on one area if you like. If you're really technical and you like the detail and you're not so much of a people person, you can have a great career in insurance. If you're a people person and you love the relationship and development areas and business development, and go out there and meeting people and clients and brokers who produce business for us, then you also have the opportunity to do that. Or I think underwriting, which I'm an underwriter at Hiscox, and I think that's a lovely blend of both, that where you can do the client and you can do the people side of things, but equally it's your job to analyse the risk, think about the exposures that are presented, and ultimately put a price and premium on what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. So, insurance also, I think when people think about insurance, they think about the exposure that they've had to insurance in the past. It might be gadget insurance that maybe hasn't paid, or home insurance that they bought online and hasn't done what they thought it was going to do. There's so much more to insurance than that. And also, particularly in a business like Hiscox, we're a specialist insurer. We operate all across the globe. And in Lloyd's of London, where the business that I work in now, we insure some of the largest and most complex things in the world, from oil rigs in the Gulf of Mexico to new wind farms in Europe, to large property and manufacturing risks that are too big and volatile to be done locally, so they have to come to London to like expert teams of underwriters who know, understand, and can manage and price those risks. That there's so much more to insurance than just what some people's exposure to it has been over the years.
And to be underwriting in Lloyd's of London, do you need like a special degree, or and what's the difference between Lloyd's of London and locally?
Yeah, so
because it's still Hiscox building, I believe. I think you've moved now, but it was literally just across the road from Lloyd's of London.
Yeah.
From going into that building to that, what's different?
Yeah, so the Lloyd's market's been around for over 300 years, and it was created to really protect the marine industry and ships and their cargo against loss of the ship and its cargo. And it was put together by a group of wealthy individuals who frequented a coffee house, who put their money together to protect not one person doing all of the risk themselves and taking all of the risk of losing the ship and its cargo, but maybe a group of 50 people saying, we'll put a little bit together, we'll put 2% in each here, and if the ship's safe and the cargo's fine and it reaches its destination, then we'll take the premium and we'll take off our costs and we might make a little bit of money. But if there is a loss, then we will ultimately have to foot that bill. And that's how the Lloyd's market ultimately started. It's a marketplace where very, very large risks come to be what we call syndicated or shared between multiple different businesses, that take some of the volatility out of a single loss being potentially $5 billion to an individual business that could be pretty hard to take.
And to be an underwriter in Lloyd's of London compared to locally, do you need a different understanding? Is it a different type of person, or is it all insurance? And
not necessarily. I think the principle and concept of insurance is pretty simple. Do we take in more premium? So, well, I guess to start again, the basic concept of insurance is that the premium of many, so the multiple buckets of premium of many people, helps to pay for the claims of the few. And the basic principle is, do I take in more in premium in any given year than I pay out in losses and what it ultimately costs me to run my business, that I can then make a little bit of profit margin. So that's the kind of basic principles of insurance. It's the same in a local market as it is to Lloyd's of London. So I've worked locally, so I've worked in our Glasgow office, I've worked in our London office, I've worked in our Manchester office, and our office out in Maidenhead as well, and then came back into London, and now work in our Lloyd's of London business as well. So you can have a career locally as well as in the Lloyd's market.
And what's made you kind of stay? Because I bet you would have had a lot of people say, come and join us and come and do this. But what's made you kind of stay? What is it about the Hiscox way or culture that said, has made you stay for 18 years?
Yeah, I think the Hiscox way and the Hiscox culture is very pronounced, and it's very very strong in terms of the values that we have and the culture that we have as an organisation. Ultimately, it might seem a little bit corny saying this, but I love the place. Feel very strongly about it, and it's been a brilliant business to work for that amount of time. You know, I've had lots of different roles where I've felt, you know, challenged and pushed, but also supported in them too. And I've said to myself that, you know, I hope this never happens, by the way, but the end of my Hiscox journey would be, you know, if I've plateaued and, you know, I think I can do that next job, but I'm just not getting the opportunity to do it from a Hiscox standpoint. I haven't got there yet, but who knows what the future holds. But, you know, as of now, fantastic business, brilliant business to work for, had lots of varied opportunities, worked with some brilliant people over the years, had some great people be my manager, learnt a lot from them, had great mentors and coaches through that time as well. So it is all about the people too. And, you know, as I've just said, we've got brilliant people within the organisation, historically and present day.
What do you think makes a good manager? Because you said you work with some good managers, and I think that can also make or break your job or your opportunity or the team that you're working in. What makes a good manager in your opinion? I
think being a manager is a different skill set to being an employee who's there to do a job, right? Because a manager, you know, invariably will also have their day job to do and the segment of the business to run, and, you know, their figures to ultimately produce that sort of gets you to year end, and you'll know if you've done a good job or not. So the manager then, you know, dedicating time to being a manager, you know, taking time to have regular sort of one-to-ones and catch-ups, caring about their people, but also holding their people to account, you know, that, you know, setting clear and defined objectives and goals for their team that are, you know, realistic, but feel maybe a little bit challenging too, and then holding those people to account on them, not getting to, you know, a mid-year appraisal and saying, oh, you haven't done the job that I wanted you to do for 6 months, and it being a bit of a surprise to everyone, you know, almost nipping that in the bud, you know, week 3 into the year, saying, you're going a little bit off course here, can we just course correct and get you back on? So
communication's key, right?
Definitely. And also understanding your people, understanding what their passion is, what they want to do, but also what their development areas are as well, and helping them, help shape and develop them into the best version of themselves that they can be.
What was your biggest learning when you became a manager?
It's hard. It's really hard, but so rewarding as well. You know, managing people is one of the most difficult and challenging things that you can do. There's no two people are really the same, but when you get it right, and I'm not saying I do that often, but it can be very rewarding where you see people progress and develop and go on to that next level. It's really, really rewarding to see that. And
you had the opportunity to move from London to Manchester. Tell me a bit about that experience and why you, and what was that like happened in that kind of story of your 18 years?
I think that's one of the probably first differentiators for me in my career at Hiscox, where I was relatively junior in a team of probably 15 to 20 people in London, doing a good job and, you know, producing some good numbers and work, and, you know, maybe felt myself that I was ready for that next step, but it was probably not likely to come in London anytime soon. Manchester was a fairly unique example that we have an office up there. It's a bit more of a satellite office where there's probably 12 to 15 people in the entire office at that time anyway. And things weren't going so well. We'd quite a high turnover of staff and we just hadn't quite got it right. Our then managing director in the UK said, James, would you go to Manchester and, you know, own the commercial team for me, rebuild it, and almost, you know, do what you're doing in London and all the good things that we know Hiscox is and what we can do, and try and put your stamp on it in the Manchester office and ultimate marketplace. You know, that's, you know, quite daunting in a way.
before we continue in terms of about like what happened and stuff, like when an opportunity like that comes to you, like what are the things that you need to consider? Like, 'cause you're moving from London to Manchester. How do you go in the room? Yes, I'll do it. Do you say, let me think about it? What process did you take, and what's your advice and your opinion to others who may have an opportunity like that? What's your kind of thinking on it?
It wasn't an instantaneous yes. It was let me think about this, let me consider it, let me think about what are the pros, what are the cons. Without doubt, from a professional and work perspective, it was going to be a big challenge. Things were not going well. The team was under-resourced. A lot of people had left, and it was it was in disarray. But equally, you can think about that as, you've almost got a bit of a blank canvas then to wipe the slate clean and put your own stamp on it. You can recruit people that you think are well suited to the business and the role, and you can build it out from there. And in a relatively short space of time, you can see what impact that you've had on that business. But yeah, I think you've really got to sit and think long and hard about, is this the right thing for me to do at this stage of my career? Is it somewhere that I want to live? Could I see myself living there for a couple of years, which is ultimately how long I was there? And it was, I had been to Manchester a few times, but hadn't been a lot, so I had to go up there and sort of familiarise myself a little bit with it, and found somewhere really nice to live, and then thought, you know what, well, let's give this a go.
So you said yes.
Yeah.
And you went in there, and what happened?
It was trying to get your head around, what we ultimately need to do. What are the problems? What needs fixed? And it was both internal and external. We had a team rebuild to do, so people to employ. Within the challenge of the external brand that we had in the local marketplace wasn't as strong as it was, say, in the London marketplace. So you're kind of hitting your head against a brick wall a little bit by, trying to identify good people in the market who wouldn't necessarily want to come and work for you. But we eventually found some really good people that were maybe a little bit off-piste, that weren't direct competitors, but we got a good team rebuilt, and then went on the journey of sort of establishing the Hiscox brand and what I know of it in the marketplace, which is with our brokers and then ultimately clients, and position yourself as someone who can provide really good service on a day-to-day basis and has a really, really strong product offering with a suite of products that were available to those brokers, and then just consistency in the delivery. Whenever you say to someone that you're going to do something, you do it. Mm-hmm. Be as good as your word, and if you do that and you're consistent in that delivery, things then start to snowball. And again, it wasn't a linear journey. There were some bumps on the road, and you get disappointed in certain areas. But then you might do, a bit more of a strategic deal with someone where you get a volume of business come your way, and then things can start to go again.
And what was the products that you kind of was offering? Was it media stuff?
There was a little bit of media, so predominantly commercial, so small business package insurance, so professional indemnity, liability, buildings and contents and computer equipment was essentially the types of insurance that we were selling in the UK and in that marketplace. And
you spent some time doing some media insurance as well?
I did, yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
That started when I was in London, and that was one of those things. Whenever I was fairly early in my career, I'd always been, I would have said technologically savvy, maybe less so nowadays actually, right? But
there's a new piece of technology coming out daily at this rate, isn't it?
Absolutely. But certainly at school, was into IT and computing and a little bit of coding and like technology, and then so in underwriting in our London office, we had a team that focused on technology, media and telecoms business. So I put my hand up to own that sort of subset of the area, and try and develop it and take it forward and sort of on a bit of a journey. And did that, and then so got exposure to technology and media, clients and the types of risks and exposures that they have. I then went to Manchester and became probably a bit more of a generalist, and then there was an opportunity to come back to London to take on the leadership of the media team in London.
Wow! And what are some of those kind of clients that you'd be working with?
So they could be anyone from the likes of yourself. Yeah. So content creators, YouTubers, to one-man band graphic designers in either Shoreditch or Leeds or Glasgow, to some of the biggest media content creators in the planet, or news businesses as well. So, and
what would you be insuring? Was it just the business, like the content, like what?
No, that's professional indemnity that we're insuring there, which is insuring those businesses for claims against the content that they create. So defamation, so libel and slander, saying something or writing something about something that damages a person or business's reputation, potentially. Could be intellectual property, so breach of copyright or infringement of a trademark, using a logo on a video that you didn't have the rights to use, using some music on a film, say, that you didn't have the rights or the appropriate rights to use for global distribution, those types of things. So quite a complex area of insurance that made it really interesting as well.
That is interesting. And why should anyone who's tuning into this right now join Hiscox? Like, how would you sum it up? Like, we've learnt about your career. You've had 18 fantastic years. You've had a role either or every 2 years. You've been put into challenging situations where you've gone and solved it and sorted out. You've been an underwriter in a number of things. Like, why should someone either join the organisation or join the industry?
Yeah, I mean, why you should join Hiscox is that if you want to work for a business that, employs really good people, talent from the outset, from, our apprenticeship and graduate schemes, we have world-class talent join us in those areas that then, puts a structure in place that helps you learn and develop, but also gives you ownership and accountability for what you do on a day-to-day basis, so that you can see what difference that you have made in a quarterly or annually basis. You can look back and say, that was me that did that. I was given ownership of that, even at a junior level, and I can then see that's what I delivered, good or bad, right? And you can take the learnings from that. That if that's the type of business that you want to work for, then Hiscox is the place for you.
Well, it sounds like the world's best kept secret, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And Mike, are you ready for my final question?
Yes.
What's your duvet flip? What gets you out of bed in the morning to flip the duvet?
Look, I feel very fortunate to work for a business that I feel very strongly about, and I have loved the world of insurance in terms of what we do. Ultimately, we keep the world going round on a daily basis. We take the risk and exposure out of individuals and companies to enable them to ultimately fulfil their dreams. That to me is what a great career to be doing, and in that as well, you get to meet lots of interesting people, understand various different businesses and concepts, get to do a bit of travel as well. That it's a fantastic and varied career that is a great thing, and really gets me out of bed in the morning.
Different day, right? Every morning.
No 2 days are the same.
Well, I just want to say thank you for joining us on the show, for sharing your wisdom about your career, and just being a joy of fun, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Delighted to be here.
There we are.
That was it? That went really quick.
Yeah.